to universally heal and prevent the diseases that now afflict humankind. Every so often there comes a discovery, a revelation that allows us to see our world as it has never been seen before. This program is about such a discovery. Greetings, I'm Larry Emlaw. The information that we are about to present to you reveals a beautiful harmony to the world of inner space. But it is more than just a revelation of beauty and harmony. You are about to look into a microscope and journey back in time. You will witness intelligent, highly organized, pre-cellular microbial organisms that preceded life as we know it today by some 4.5 billion years. The scientific discoveries documented in this report are first, a catalyst, life crystals, and subsequently, an organism called Condryanna. Life crystals and Condryanna have the remarkable ability to recall ancient, dormant organisms to life from human, animal, or plant genes. The significance of this discovery far exceeds the ability to just resurrect dormant life. Its prime application is in the medical field because these organisms boost our body's immune response to a degree where diseases can be prevented or destroyed where they already exist. The discoverer is the distinguished nuclear physicist Dr. Georg Merkl, who is the author of the book Inner Space. He holds more than 100 American and international patents for his discoveries and inventions. He is listed in Who's Who in Pioneers in Science today. In many countries, his discovery is already proving to be a major breakthrough in the prevention and healing of disease. In the United States, it still awaits FDA approval. But let's begin with the discovery. In a 1992 interview with medical science educator George Powell, Dr. Merkl explains that it began with nuclear cold fusion.
Well, it's quite a long story. It goes back way to 65 when I was exploring the nature of the macrocapillaries when I rearranged the grains of high-purity metals into simple geometrical form and opened up the domains to 5 to 20 angstrom units, and I found out that these macro channels have superconductive properties and capable of absorbing free energy. This process was the first controlled low-energy fusion process. The physics which I discovered here and worked out was leading me to the second and third cold fusion process, where I actually produced miniature hydrogen bombs. You can see the halo, just a miniature hydrogen bomb, as it was demonstrated to the Department of Energy and the 30 executives from the energy companies. Here's the proof when I made synthetic titanium, the fusion tracks. This is a 40,000 magnification of the fusion track, produced enough energy in a 40,000 inch area to heat a cubic inch of material instantaneously, 3,000 centigrade temperature, which would be equivalent to hundreds of millions of centigrade temperature that was generated on top of a hot plate. I created paramagnetic centers, and I discovered that in these paramagnetic centers I was able to produce enough energy to reverse the spin of the proton.
The information gained from the cold fusion experiments led Merkl to observe that the same free energy that facilitates cold fusion is also found in the cellular structures of all life forms. Merkl discovered that you could take the genetic material from any living thing, a plant for instance, combine that genetic material with the 5 carbon sugars, and the combination would attract free energy. Furthermore, the free energy crystallized the genetic material. Because crystals store and amplify light energy, living genetic material became visible for the first time. This process led to the formation of what Dr. Merkl called life crystals. But there's more. Life crystals also increase the energy level of the genetic material. As this program continues, you will witness how pre-cellular organisms are energized by the life crystals, how they create factories of T killer cells to enhance our immune response and fight off disease. It should be noted that the living forms you are about to see would be invisible to the naked eye. You will in fact be looking into a sophisticated optical microscope that is magnifying the image up to 1,000 times. The life crystals further magnify this pre-cellular life to an average of 12,000 times.
As you can see the life crystal here in action, you can see the enormous amount of energy is released as you place them into water. The life crystal enabled me to replicate the energy level which existed on this planet when the sun was young. Once you crystallize a genetic crystal, they have their own characteristics. There is no two life crystal which is alike. Every life crystal is different, and they all have their fingerprint. See, the engine of life, the 4-carbon nitrogen bond, which sits in the center of the porphyrin, as the nitrogen transfer the energy to the carbon, the lighter carbon is oscillating around the heavier nitrogen. It's an oscillator, it's an energy transducer. And each life transducing its own signature frequency, which frequency then sets the sequence in the DNA molecules of the adenosine, guanosine, and determining what it's going to be. And it's very interesting because every form of life have exactly the same engine, the same chemical formula. And this really led me to believe that light has intelligence, and without intelligent light, this frequency could have not evolved. And of course, the question comes up, who put that intelligent light in there? As you know, everything is made from light, and when the universe was born, from free energy, from the burst of free energy, 918 pairs of this free energy, which moves through time and space in three-dimensional vortex, makes up one photon. And 918 pairs of this photon braids into one electron, and 918 pairs of this electron braids into a neutron. And that's how free energy was molded into light, and light was molded into matter. And of course, this matter then filling the cores of our suns and stars, and that's how the planets and life evolved. And basically, light has intelligence, and whoever put it in, whether you want to call it the breath of the universe or the breath of God, it's up to the individuals what they believe. These are just genetic soup with live genetic components. They're rocking and oscillating. When they assemble into life, they pair and depolarize. Actually, I was looking at a life form which was unknown to us until this point. These are more DNA molecules being dispersed in concentrated life crystal solution by depolarization. And they break down to 7 units. You can also see the 7 segments which will naturally separate as the DNA is depolarized. Once the master gene is attached, they come to life, and that's the way life begins.
The ability to see these earliest life forms via life crystals will show the development of a cell nucleus, which is also known as mitochondria. Dr. Merkl calls this precursor to our cell nucleus Condryanna. He also discovered that these earliest life forms have gender, male and female. In this segment, you will witness a highly intelligent, well-organized society of microbial organisms, powerfully able to prevent or fight disease.
Here we can see the formation of a primitive nucleus. outside of the cell. You can see the genetic material inside beginning to proliferate as the female Condryanna begins to evolve inside of a primitive nucleus. Now you can see a primitive nucleus, the female Condryanna evolving inside. And you will be witnessing here how the organelle enters into a nucleus, delivering the message. In actual footage, actual time, that man has never seen before. He's inside now. And he will exit at the opposite side by depolarizing the membrane. And this is the beginning of the evolution of the female Condryanna. The marble on the top is the evolving female Condryanna. And the bottom marble is the male organelle from the transfer RNA delivering the message and the genetic material. Now you can see the female very clearly. And that was that 7 genetic material with the master genes. Which was oscillating, creating an oscillatory field and an oscillatory current, and the two ends polarizing, folding into a circle, and the primitive nucleus coming into existence. Now here you can see the female inside the nucleus with the genetic materials proliferating in a more advanced stage. You see, in this stage the Condryanna is not grown up yet. Eventually that Condryanna will grow up and come to life like chicken in the egg. Now this is a life inside of a membrane. And now the female came first. The female evolved inside of the primitive nucleus. You can see here a female is orbiting in multidimension, and you can see the colloidal life within, or the genetic materials within, dispersed. They're individually intelligent, working in tandem, deciding when to change directions, and that determines the orbiting path of the female. So they must communicate with each other. Now when the female consumed all the genetic material, those are those little marbles you see inside of her. Those little marbles were randomly distributed within the membranes, which you will see later, and that's what she swallowed. While I was replicating genetic process via live crystal, on December 25th, 5 o'clock in the morning, in 1990, I looked into the microscope and I observed the birth of the first Condryanna.
Maybe that was your Christmas present to the world.
Well, very few scientists would sit at the microscope 5 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Day, but I was one of them. And this was the most beautiful present indeed when I discovered the Condryannas, and I was standing over the microscope for 8 hours with my camera on my shoulder, taking the pictures through the eyepiece, since the microscope was a homemade one. And I decided that I have to record these historic events. And I succeeded to record the first birth of the Condryannas. And the female Condryanna was giving birth to male triplets on that morning. And here you can see the formation as the genetic materials being segregated and divided into the three males. Actually, as the Condryanas were evolving or devolving, they changed the method of reproduction from giving birth to division. As I change the concentration and so the energy level in live crystals, the Condryanna will degenerate, devolve, as the energy level is dropping, and eventually turns into macrophage or T cells, like our degenerated or devolved immune cells. These are the ancient ones, way back in time. They're super intelligent, polymorphic. They can change into many different forms instantly, or they can disperse and reassemble in multitudes. When I kill them, they also resurrect in exactly 3 days. They're eternal. And the intelligence even we can envy. Now that one just came out there. That's the second one. And now comes the third one. You can see the cell membrane, it's visible. See the outline of the cell membrane, the inside. And she's coming through the septum, or here. They're looking for the septum, which is the equivalent to uterus. Even today, our nucleus maintained its septum. Through the septum, our nucleus still communicating with the mitochondria in our cell via messengers, exchanging genetic material, having sex by messengers. Seem they have a little difficulty to find the septum to exit. It happens sometimes. It's going around. See, finally they came out.
By looking into the microscope with us, you have seen some of the earliest forms of life, and you have witnessed the birth of 3 male chondrions. But what are these life forms, and where do they come from? To answer these questions without plunging into basic biology, suffice it to say that within everyone there exist tiny structures whose job it is to convert glucose, blood sugar, into energy. The conversion takes place in tiny factories known as mitochondria. It is understood that without these conversion factories, energy, and therefore life itself, cannot exist. Chondrions resemble mitochondria, and in fact are the precursors to mitochondria. More importantly, as you will see next, chondrions enzymatically devour bacteria, viruses, cancer cells, or any microorganism that may jeopardize any human tissue.
The Condryanas can take over the complete defense to protect the human body against the disease until they rebuild the natural defense. They can also produce interferon to stimulate T8 cells directly, or they can produce stem cells for the production of Langerhans cells. And here they're attacking yeast spores. They can recycle diseases into their own in 4 minutes, to take the genetic material apart and reassemble it into their own. And some of them can actually spinning out 6 or 8 small Condryanna embryos in 4 minutes. They're energy cells. They live on energy. They require light. If you put them into dark, they will disperse. And they're utilizing the energy for depolarization of genetic materials. That's the way they destroy their enemies and then recycle the leftover dispersed genetic materials. They break down the segments of DNAs into bricks and mortar to the very basic units, all the way down to nucleotides if a genetic disease is involved. They multiply, or rather proliferate, and multi-level. The male also can clone itself and reproduce and give birth only to cygnets and only to male. The female always lays 3 eggs after giving birth to 3 males, laying 3 eggs for the females. But they can replicate themselves many different ways. They can lay down genetic materials, and from genetic materials they can grow factories to produce proteins, for example, or create life, or produce killer cells. Since they are human origin, they are to defend the human body. And they will not tolerate anything in the human body that doesn't belong there. Now these are more developed root system of cancer. It came out from biopsies. And then put together with the Condryanna in vitro, and the Condryanna destroyed the cancerous tissues. As you can, little island, you can see the Condryanna already converted to cancerous tissue. Here you can see segmenting the tissue. Now, matter of fact, you can see the killer cells, the Condryanna, in the root system like a string of beads as they're destroying the root system of the cancer. And then, of course, the cancer will die, and it turns into mashed potato. At that time, it's no longer malignant. That can be removed just by draining or spooning it out, but they're not attached to the bones or muscles or the tissues anymore. This is a cancerous tissue right there. You can see the root system is coming out at the corner. You see how the root system is growing out of the cancerous tissue. Look at them closely. You see the mouth is like a sac. They open up and just suck them in like a vacuum cleaner. But they also can control the opening of that sac to very narrow or very wide. And that sac is just about identical to the sac or the mouth of the opening of a macrophage. So they are interrelated. Of course, Condryanna can convert into a macrophage because they're polymorphic. Now they're producing enzymes and proteins within themselves, and whatever they swallow, they instantly depolarize it. They will fall apart and reuse the genetic material to build their own. It's like a melting pot inside of them. And the energy cells, tremendous amount of energy cell, tremendous amount of energy they can pick up, and they can pick up energy from the atmosphere, they pick up life energy, etheric energy, enormous amount of energy. And that energy they use to depolarize genetic material, so they will fall apart. The chains will fall apart into genes, and then they recycle them. See, the whole life cycle is based on polarization, those polarization bonds, the whole DNA molecule. And if you depolarize it, it will fall apart. And that's the way they're taking genetic material apart. So they have no mercy when they get those viruses and bacteria, you know, they just completely break them down and reuse the genetic material as normal parts, recycle them. They also have cilius. Sometimes you can see it. And the next segment, you will see the cilius much better. They also oscillate. You see how they oscillate, just like T cells. T cells with the two antennas, which acts like a tuning fork, generating a frequency and zip the microbes. Now again, these are specific type of Condryanna who behaves like those T cells. They're constantly oscillating. Like the other Condryannas you have been seen previously, they do not oscillate like this. So they always accommodate themselves to their local environment. And they really military planners. They proliferate and they sequence their life to meet military need. Langerhans cells are generals, and the T4 cells are lieutenants, and the T8 cells are the soldiers, or the infantry. And here comes the Condryanna. Condryanna are the chief of command. They are the pentagons. Okay, so they can give the orders to these cells what to do in case of danger, if they need to protect their territory. But if the defense system is broken down or the Langerhans cell is not in sufficient numbers, the Condryanna simply can bypass the Langerhans cell and the dendritic cell and give direct instruction to the T4 cells to multiply or produce interferon to let the T8 cell proliferate. When I take my own DNA molecules or my chromosomes and put it into live crystal, it will be depolarized. It will fall apart to individual genes. And from those individual genes, the Condryanna will assemble. One of those little marbles inside that Condryanna, when it's get into your blood cell, it will begin a genetic process, a proliferation process inside the blood cell. Takes exactly 60 minutes. And from your own blood cell, you begin to produce your own Condryanna, your own defense. This is particle biochemistry. It's equivalent of nuclear physics, but this is biophysics. I approached life from quantum level. So it is also part of inner space, because you have the outer space, the inner space. You go into negative infinity and positive infinity out there. And this is the particle life, just like in particles, in particle physics. Both has been put together by intelligent light. If light would be intelligent, matter could have not formed, and life could not have formed. Now here you can see giant, ancient soldiers, T8 cells, not like ours today. They're much bigger, much more powerful. The clock has been turned back on these T cells. If you look at ours, how smaller they are, how much smaller they are. And they have the tuning fork when they oscillate the tuning fork to zip the microbe with it. Now these cells are vibrators, oscillators. They can put out specific frequency to kill specific microbes. They multiply, proliferate exponentially. One cell divides into two, then each divides again, becoming 4. and within hours they can proliferate into millions. This is only one way the Condryanna proliferates when danger arises. And they can reproduce military hardware like these ones, an infinite number of them, to match any disease as the need arises.
Condryanna does not die. According to Dr. Merkl's research, Condryanna returns to what he calls colloidal life. Colloidal meaning dispersed into particle life. In the next few minutes, you will witness Condryanna, after finishing its disease-killing task, return to the colloidal life from which it came. The video was made in a black field, that is to say, without external light. The images you will see are illuminated by remnants of life crystals.
And this is the death of a Condryanna, but not its colloidal life. Its colloidal life will survive because it's eternal. You can see the cell membrane elongating downwards. It's very close to pop. It's already popped. And the leaders of the colloidal life will emerge on the top, like beacon of light, leading a nation away. And now the last one, the third leader on top emerging. And as you can see, the rest follow them. And those colloidal life will live for hundreds of millions of years. You can find them in ancient rocks and resurrect them by putting them into water and giving them back to life energy.
Science fiction? Not at all. The world over, but especially in the countries where it is already being utilized as the therapeutic approach to most diseases, what you have witnessed is now recognized as one of the greatest secular discoveries in the history of medicine. Let's return now to Dr. Merkl's interview with medical science program producer George Powell.
Our main interest in this program, which of necessity has a limited time, is to interest physicians, to help thousands and maybe millions of people in the world who could benefit from this latest discovery of yours.
Well, exactly, yes. Now, there is two things which I like to bring forth here. Okay, number one, life crystal and Condryanna. Life crystal itself is rebuilding, restoring, rejuvenating. It's not only can slow aging and reverse aging. Now, we are in a terrible shape because we are living in a poison world. Not only the air, but the food and the drugs, everything we use is poison. Okay? Like take for all the antibiotics, produced by fungus and yeast processes, and all those yeast winds up in our bloodstream. I will elaborate that later on a little bit, what it can do to you. But you take life crystal in a pure form, free of all the chemicals, okay? And you provide it, providing these pure building blocks, bricks and mortars, to your system. You're rebuilding your cells, your aging cells rejuvenating. You can proliferate young stem cells, so you can rebuild your organ. Now, I have synthesized organs in vitro. Now, if I can synthesize it, it also do the same thing within you, which we have clinical data now that we can rebuild organs inside of you by using just the basic bricks and mortars, the life crystal in your system. This is a heart, an embryonic heart, synthesized or grown in vitro from transfer RNA of a heart cell or other heart cell genetic material. This is a thymus. Look, it said that the central thymus cell. It's a beautiful, beautiful loop. I grew the organ of thymus too using just transfer RNA. Okay, now you can see a little more detail, the evolution of the brain. Now, this is really so beautiful because you can see really the neuron fibers, neuron endings, the neuron fiber and the neuron ending at the tip. And it's alive, you can see. So you can't really fake that. You can't cut that out from the brain. It's very, very nice. Here's the two lobes, the way the cells arrange themselves to grow a pancreatic lobules, which we will see shortly. And within, producing also all the beta cells, Langerhans, islets, and beta cells. And it's very interesting that this pancreas and pancreatic lobules, the pancreatic tubules and the beta cells, everything has been synthesized from humuline insulin via life crystal. And in spite, or contrary to the teaching, the hormone of insulin contains all the information to run a reverse process to recreate the pancreas. The information is in there. You see the two lobules, pancreatic lobules, now as the cell first rearranging themselves into the two loops, now they fuse together and recreate the pancreatic lobules. If a diabetic has problem with the kidney stops functioning and let's say would need a kidney transplant. Only 5 cc of this product injected intravenously in a 2 weeks period, it will restore that kidney. It will bring out all the deposits from the blood vessels and clean it, whether it's sugar deposits or whether it's cholesterol deposit. It cleans it out and you get a new kidney, and the kidney will function normally, so the poor patient don't have to go through a kidney transplant. If somebody, for example, have circulation problem, diabetic in the legs, you don't have to amputate. You can restore the circulation. If a stroke victim, you can restore the brain, and a heart victim, you can restore the heart. Now, I'm personally, myself, it's a very good example. In 1982, when I had my first heart attack, I was at Temple General Hospital for 14 days on ICU. I almost died. And I had 3 more heart attacks after that, and Dr. P.C. in El Paso, Texas, was ballooning me at Sumerian Medical Center. It took 3 hours just to open up my arteries partially because he couldn't get to the other arteries, and Lafke still cleaned it out for me. And today my aorta dilation went from 39 to 46. Now this is all documented, it's on record. I got a new heart today.
It energizes the immune system.
It rebuilds the immune system. It restores. It's, of course, you know, with the current environment we're living in, our cell membrane doesn't function properly. Our respiratory system in the cell is not operating properly. It's breaking down. That's what really brings in the problem diseases. But our mitochondria is in terrible shape inside our cell. All the macro factories inside our cells, terrible shape. Now, life will all rejuvenate this, rebuild it. Now, together with this, of course, it will rebuild your immune system.
So it will detoxify the body, get rid of anything that doesn't belong in there.
Correct. Basically, you know, life crystal is really rebuilds. It's detoxified, it cleans out because it dissolves keratin, dissolves the sugar deposits and removes the cholesterol. But when it gets to diseases, then comes in the Condryanna. The Condryanna fights the disease because Condryanna is military. They're military planners, and they can produce military hardware and attack the diseases. Now, for example, you know, if a disease comes into the body, the Condryanna can pick up the frequency of the disease and match it to the military, and then go after and destroy the disease. Next, a very simple example in case of cancer. When the Condryanna goes after the cancer, how intelligent they are. They go after the root system first. The cancer has a root system which breaks down to segments like a tapeworm. And if the blood vessel ruptures, or if you have surgery, these platelets gets into the blood vessel, and that's the way cancer metastasizing. These little segments will shoot out roots, north and south. And wherever they land, they will begin a cancerous growth. Now, the Condryannas go after these little segments and destroying them. They're physically eating them. They lay genetic materials into them, and consuming them, recycling them into themselves. And then they go after the cancer. But usually when they destroy the cancer, the tumor goes dead. So it turns black and brown and slushy and mashed potatoes. So at that time you can either go and drain it out, or you can help the organs of various homeopathic and diets and different methods to try to remove the toxins as fast and efficiently as possible for the body. But
it is very important to evacuate those toxins.
Oh yes, sure. And of course, in some cases, you go in and you can remove it surgically. But at that time, there's no danger because the cancer cannot spread anymore. Even if you take a cancer patient and you use an orthodox method to remove that cancer, but if you give them Condryanna before and after, you don't have to worry about metastasis. You don't have to worry about radiation and chemotherapy, which is killing people. And it's well established that it doesn't work. So you can avoid all that, even if you want to stay with the orthodox system. But you can use these little miracle microorganisms, our ancestors, to protect us.
There are, as I understand it, already many physicians in many different countries in the world.
Yes.
Using this very successfully.
Correct. It's well over 20 countries, and it's well over 40 clinics, and hundreds of physicians who are already using and benefiting from it. Now, of course, depending on restriction on certain countries, we have restriction, others not. Now, in the United States, we have restrictions. So the only way we let these materials come into the United States if there is an FDA permit. So we do everything legally. But the product is registered in Mexico under the name Revivaline. And by now, the state hospitals...
Revivaline are the life crystals?
Of the Condryanna.
The Condryanna.
Yeah. And even state hospitals begin to using them. Now we have stacks of clinical data already that it works in every form of cancers, including leukemia. And we can have these cancers and leukemia go into remission within a very reasonable short term. It works definitely on Epstein-Barr, which is a major epidemic in the United States. It works on diabetes, both 1 and 2. It works on all the lupus diseases very effectively. We had Parkinson's diseases, we had multiple sclerosis, and a host, including AIDS. Now, we had 5 separate clinics. We have clinical reports. Then within 1 month, 3 to 4 weeks, all the immune system doubles. All the T cells, lymphocytes doubles. If somebody has a T cell count of 20, it will go to 40. If somebody has 400, it will go to 800. And it keeps going up as they are on the treatment. But we have reports when amputations and transplant has been avoided because of either life crystal or the Condryanna.
Now, one of the things that physicians usually want to know before they subject anyone to a new discovery, such as yours, is what are the risk factors and what are the side effects? Now,
risk factors is 0. There is absolutely no risk factors because nothing is toxic. Now, the life crystal itself, the adenosine phosphate, has been approved by even the U.S. FDA decades ago. Okay, so there is no risk factor there because you're talking the basic building blocks of your DNA molecule in an ultra-pure form. When I make a single crystal, a genetic crystal from these materials, it's got to be ultra-pure, otherwise I could not make a monocrystals out of them. This goes through a 6-stage purification and leaving anything out. But first of all, we use very pure off-the-shelf food items to extract these products, and we use a solar system to do it, a solar energy. It takes 6 months to do it in the desert. And we do not use any chemicals for extraction, so everything is ultra-pure. So there is no toxicity involved here. Now, the only thing which we have to be careful when you try to kill a disease or in removing those toxins, the organs have to be in good shape. And a lot of times when you get to terminal diseases who has been destroyed by radiation, chemotherapy, and other kinds of treatment, we have to monitor it very carefully and release those toxins very slowly. So you have to monitor it and killing that cancer slowly, for example, or that Epstein-Barr to release it slowly. So the way that's being done, the dosage rates of Condryanna is administered at a very low rate and gradually increased according to the information coming from the blood panel work to see what's happening and monitoring the organs. So it can be conducted extremely safely. Now, I would say that about 4,000 people has used it, and no one got hurt by this product. And the only, if you want to call it side effect, but it's really not a side effect, it's a desirable immune reaction when somebody is using it. Okay? Exactly 60 minutes after the injection, they will have chill and shake. Now, depending proportional how much disease there is. Okay? And this is really an interferon reaction. And after the chill and shake, the temperature goes, which chill and shake really lasts within 35 to 45 minutes, and then the temperature goes to 100, 102 for an hour or two maybe, and it ends. Okay? And it repeats itself. But as the disease is being removed from the person's body, the reaction rate begins to drop. So they don't have this reaction anymore. So the reaction is really directly related to the toxins, to the disease, how much disease there is in the body.
Not to the therapy. Nevertheless, it needs to be
monitored. Exactly. Now, this product, we are doing everything what we can to prevent it from falling into the wrong hands or the hands of individuals. It has to be administered by doctors and clinics and monitored. It's very, very important. And of course, from the other hand, we do not want to have unprofessional people handling, because regardless what you handle, if you don't handle it right, you can get hurt. And one point I like to bring out, because there's a lot of concern has been that what happens to our medical profession. Well, I can tell this much, that and we can create an enormous amount of employment and jobs, because all the lab tests have to be done and the monitoring to be done. When we start cleaning up the diseases on a massive scale around the world, I mean, new industries will grow out of it. So there is need for every able-bodied medical team or medical doctor or nurse to help to have this program and begin to clean up the diseases in the world. And that's the first step. The first step to clean up the diseases. And the second step, then bring the human body up to level, up to to make them healthy, so that in the last 20, 30 years of their life, they don't have to spend it in misery in hospitals and clinics.
That's wonderful. And equally great to your invention, to your discovery, is your own wish that you have shared with us in one of your documents, that especially the Condryanna you feel is a gift. And it is
a gift to the world.
It is your wish, as I understand it, that this not be misused or be used.
Or exploited.
Exploited
for profit.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. The Condryanna is really a gift. And perhaps this was my destiny, to deliver this gift to the world, to the people who are in need.
The full significance of this discovery will be realized when physicians in every nation on earth experience the therapeutic results this discovery offers. Millions of people plagued by illnesses that range from diabetes, heart disease, cancer and AIDS, to chronic fatigue, depression, and mental illness will be able to live disease-free, long, productive lives. In our next program, we will present even more detailed scientific and clinical data of this fascinating view into inner space, the inner space of microbial life. I'm Larry Emloff. Thank you for watching.
Good morning. In this documentary, I shall announce to the world that the Sumerian technology has been rediscovered. Technology that has been predicted to arrive at the 21st century when the new age shall begin. Sumerian cosmic physics, bringing random forces into hyperdimensional order, removing the veil from the chaotic interference. Megadimensions, giving birth to new entropy. The cosmic transparent virgin matter has been touched at the doorstep of immortality. Matter with chaotic interference is the trash of the cosmos. Pristine cosmic matter in superlattice is the cornerstone of the cosmic. Cosmic geometry, electrons, protons, photons, or even proteins can be ordered into cosmic geometry or sacred geometry. When proteins are in cosmic order, superlattice, to be known to us before, a new world is opening up. Nucleotides in cosmic order may also form genders depending on their spin interaction. Could be either male or female, not by sex, but by spin direction. Black and white protein attracting the white, being the female, possessing the blueprint of life that has been gifted by the breath of creation. The black in the male performing the labor and offense as well as defense. These condensed nucleotides unites, building together the biomachines. Protein biomachines are the precursor of biofactories, such as substrate that producing ATP or synthesizes ATP. And these are the bionuclear machines. They replicate wave interference and optically store and transfer and proliferate life forms. This hyperdimensional intelligence challenging the human mind, life forms in sacred cosmic geometry represents physical and optical life forms. Two in one, they may separate or unite, and it is not as simple as a hologram, and there's nothing wrong with it to call it the physical body and the soul. Together or individually, they represent a new bioindustry, their high-tech capability surpassing the human imagination. They have complete control over hyperdimensional interference, producing coherency within the realm of cosmic order that is the cornerstone of all matter and the whole universe. Before I present this documentary to you, I have to take you back to the beginning of time. The universe must be in equilibrium. Therefore, it must contain two opposing forces, a positive and a negative force, a forward force and a reverse force. At the beginning of time, forces released from the energy well, monopole, that when it happened, we recall it as the Big Bang. This free energy generated the gravitational flow and gave rise to gravitational waves and receptance. The universe was born in a split second and brought with it the birth of time, space, and the blueprint to life. The blueprint of the cosmos has been born from the breath of creation, and every wave is the pillar of the cosmos. The one gravitational wave in the center became the new energy well, slurping in the other six, braiding the wavefronts from interference, becoming a unit. And then each one of these units again gather together and form a new 6 plus 1. And the 6 new unit will be swallowed by the new nuclear well in the center. And this is the way energy was being compressed into matter. As the gas is cooled at the Big Bang and the gravitational waves cooled and slow down, they begin to collapsing through the center and begin to oscillate. And these are the original first cosmic waveforms. Then immediately begin to form an implosive well to oppose the forces of the Big Bang. The new matter is virgin, pristine matter as it's compressed from these waveforms. As the interference of the energy wave remains orderly, in lockstep, in sacred geometry, this cosmic matter, some call it dark matter, in reality is transparent matter. They can form black holes, turning on anti-gravitational field in recycling matter. The opposing implosive force of the explosion is countering the forces of the Big Bang. And when time retreats, aging reverses. In the visible matter, the interference is chaotic matter. In the galaxies, suns, and stars, they're turning out trash and aged matter. It's on its way towards recycling. We are imploding red giants, neutron stars, and going down black holes, disintegrating back to gravitational waves. Sumerians taught us cosmic geometry and cosmic math, but we were reluctant to listen and chose the linear system while we are living in a spherical one. In restoring the Sumerian math, still in my genes, returning from the past. Cosmic matter mostly pristine, and pristine matter, the interference point are organized and is in lockstep, forming superlattice. Such a pristine matter holds the breath of creation and the blueprint to life itself. The pristine cosmic matter therefore holds the blueprint to life, as the breath of creation is life itself. Since cosmic pristine matter is in superlattice, therefore is superconductive, further such superlattice can form an infinite variation of cosmic life that is far superior to us, since it is energy rich. It can process CO2, for example, and water in the presence of air to make glucose and genetic components, nucleotides. They also produce the elixir of life, that promotes life and cosmic geometry. The cosmic black protein is transparent and are the precursors of the mitochondria that in turn replicates the Condryanna, which then becomes the precursor of the Condryanna. And the Condryanna is the precursor of the mammal species. Now, I have done work on the Condryanna years ago, and it is on its way out. It's very exciting and very interesting that I was able to reproduce our ancestors and well documented it and reproduce the ancestor of many mammals as we're coming from one common origin, the precursor of the mitochondria, which is the Condryanna. But this technology, what I entered into, and it's an entirely different matter. We go to the very basic core of life itself, where it begins through blueprint held by interference. But this cosmic pristine matter replicating plant life that turns out sacred proteins and the elixir of life. Pristine cosmic matter is the foundation of cosmic physics, unknown to us until now. Since the backbone of the cosmic matter is sacred geometry produced by orderly interference of energy waves, it is capable of storing the breath of creation with the blueprint of life, therefore replicating to predestined life forms as well as all matters in the universe. Such life forms has been discovered. I named them the cosmic incubators. Cosmic incubators are hyper-intelligent. Cosmic life forms are erecting hardware and assembling them into bionic plants and machinery. The life forms are capable to process software to replicate life form from interference of waves, light that holds the breath of creation. The elixir they produce is being used to deliver the life energy and the cosmic order. The Sumerians tried to tell us this incredible cosmic order, translating into a primitive language that now has been re-explored, translated into our primitive conception. The Sumerians themselves, 7,000 years ago, were producing these elixirs and were telling us, as you have seen at the beginning of this tape, the cosmic flower that made of crystal producing genetic material with the help of elixir which came from the sun. And this elixir which I discovered is exactly the same as the Sumerian elixir. As I documented through this video, when I reproduced all the signs from historical remnants, from the Sumerians, from their clay tablets and cylinders, what they were trying to tell us, and matched it one by one to prove it to you that we do have rediscovered, or I do have rediscovered the Sumerian technology. Now, I have a notion, which I always had, that the nucleus, the centriole, the cerebrocortex fluid in mitochondria and perhaps other organelles in our physical body contains sacred geometry. And it also contains the elixir of life, which will alter the water, the hydrophilic and hydrophobic properties of the water in the nucleus in the process of building genetic materials and DNA. Just as well in the mitochondria, the substrate, which is in sacred geometry, I succeeded to magnify the substrate of the mitochondria 80 million times and proved that indeed it's in sacred geometry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1 in the middle. 6 plus 1, as the Sumerians were trying so hard to tell it to us. That is the basis of the cosmic math. Now, because to make sacred geometry, you do have to have a substance which itself is in sacred geometry and promoting it. And this substance, I'm extracting it from the sun. And this substance, anything it touches turns into sacred geometry. And this is what the Sumerians did. Now, this elixir must have or must possess qualities that are nucleus and the cosmos, just like these interference lines, what you just have seen in color on the screen. We're missing 40% of the neutrinos from the sun. One may overlook that hydrogen and electron fusing on the sun may consume neutrinos. But I believe that that may be the substance I'm extracting and putting into liquid form from the sun, because I'm distilling this very same substance, elixir, which the Sumerian produced from the sun as they did. Now, it could be other sacred matter which hides somewhere in our nucleus, whether it's a gluon or whether it's a gravitron, God knows. But we know one thing, that this new substance, this elixir which the Sumerians had, has arrived and greeting us at the doorstep on the 21st century. Scientist proteins, or rather scientists made of proteins with gender, they design and build biomachines following the cosmic order. These cosmic life factories, and they scientists arrive. The question is, when did they land? Or were they here all this time? Or perhaps I call them back via cosmic science as I discovered the sacred geometry in practice. Or perhaps the Sumerian never left. They just miniaturized themselves. As they could increase their size, it would very well be that they also could reduce their size. As you see, if you take the matter apart to its atoms, and the atoms apart to their waves, what they're made of, those waves, all that energy originally was in a monopole size of a timbal. That only tells us that we can take the world population and reduce it in size, converting them to free energy, and they would fit into a timbal. So, civilization like the Sumerians had within their reach and capabilities to increase and decrease their size. And who says that a flying saucer or a foreign spacecraft has to come in giant size? They could reduce themselves and live here unnoticed. And maybe they've been here all the time. And when they leave, they can simply increase their size. Now, this is not science fiction. As you will see as we go on, and we will come the proof of the pudding. I have documented and actually did miniaturized and magnified life forms via interference cosmic order. It is like a hyperdimensional hologram. Imagine a flying saucer or a spaceship turned to microscopic size. Actually, as you're using these machines to produce these holograms, depending on the size of the hologram and the distance the wave travel and producing the interference, or the size of the life they will reproduce. And that's the way they can even magnify or demagnify life forms. Smart proteins holds the blueprint
to all life forms, including the biomachines. Ordinary protein holds the biostructure. Smart proteins hold the blueprints. In interference of waveforms, and perhaps seek out and process information held captive in the interference patterns. Protein scientists born out of the elixir of life that delivers the cosmic order. As I knew it since a long time when I was working with the Condryanas, that I was able to reproduce smart proteins from the tail section of the spermatozoa, where I located the remnants granules degenerated ancient cytoplasm, and I resurrected that with live crystal and put it back to production and produced a new type of Condryanna. Originally, I produced the Condryanna from the nucleus of the bottom of the head of the spermatozoa as it's entered into the ovum, and produced the first haploid cell, which incidentally becoming the mammal's immune system. And if I take out that first 4 haploid cell from the ovum and deprive it from hormones and nutrients, with a primitive nutrient such as adenosine, guanosine, phosphate, I can force the further development. They turn into Condryanna, what they were 3.5 billion years ago. That gave me the idea to go and recall them or wake them up in our germinal cells produced in our sex gland, and succeeded to reproduce the Condryanna from them. From then I went to genetic material, chromosomes and DNA, to use the information to reproduce the Condryanna. And then finally I was able to reproduce the ancient Condryanna from the midsection of the tail of the spermatozoa, where I produced the ancient smart protein. When I got to the shark Condryanna, which incidentally had fins and tails, when I called them back to life, the shark spermatozoa and its tail still today can produce smart proteins, and that's why they can reproduce their tail if they get injured or rebuild their tail. And this is why the salamander can regrow its tail. Those still existing, smart proteins still existing in those species. And smart protein is holding the breath, the blueprint of creation. And they're responsible of forming RNA, DNA, and genetic materials. Even though that today the DNA has to activate the RNA, the transfer RNA, to go to the cytoplasm, and in the presence of nucleotides, they are producing proteins. But this is why, because we are degenerated, and that's the way our system is able to reproduce protein, because we do not have our capability anymore to produce sacred proteins. The cosmic scientist harnessing the cosmic order that holds the breath of creation. The arrival of this new macro science is the beginning of a new age. As we will be able to enter into a higher cosmic plane, one of the criteria is that Sumerian water that structured to cosmic order by altering the hydrophobic and hydrophilic properties of water, by changing the bonding energies and displacing the dipole moment of the water. And the water will assume the tetrahedral structure in liquid form and acquire these new properties. And such water is essential to all life form, as it is found in the nucleus of a cell. and some other organelles, like in the centriole to build microtubules and spindles for cell division, or in the mitochondria where the protein substrate that processing ATP is in a sacred geometry and it's superconductive. Or in the cerebral spinal fluid where the nerve impulses are transferred to the distribution points. Now here you begin to see some of the machine. This is the miracle machine, is right in front of you. This is the gift of creation. A piece of machinery, sophisticated machinery, which contains a vortex disc on the top, which is black, that's placing the crest of the waveforms out of phase and break the light down. In the bottom, it's putting the crest of the waves in phase and producing coherent light beams, electron beams, proton beams. The bells in the middle are optical devices, and the system is producing sophisticated interference patterns where they lock in the genetic information, storing it, and then from that interference, which is held by the light, reproduce life and replicate life. And this is the way these machines are producing the different types of proteins. These machines just came in the right time for the rescue of the human race. These machines are able to produce, synthesize proteins from CO2 and building them into sugars and sugar phosphates and genetic components like adenosine and guanosine phosphates. But this system can also revolutionize many other industries I will be talking about here shortly. Now, the Sumerian elixir plays a very important role in the process, such as water, and this scientist designed and produced the specific geometry within the sacred geometry, parts of a beta sheet in cosmic order made from large proteins. They also designed the amino acids to the desired length to build intricate new biostructures. They design and build phasing in or out dish antenna or vortex antenna fields with bell-shaped optical devices to produce interference blueprints. All this protein precision hardware hooked into specific life replication engine that is then producing or processing the information to replicate the life form and produce genetic material from or according to the blueprint held by light in the holograms that holds the blueprint. They are building and stacking the